and especially when you're dealing with people of wealth. And people of wealth may be cautious anyway, because people are always asking for gifts. But I think how you meet someone, how you get that introduction, is extremely important. Who opens the door for you? And I don't know if that's true. I mean, you did fundraising outside the Asian community. Do you think it was different than that?
I think it's true everywhere.
True everywhere.
Yeah. Another piece that's true across philanthropy is that there's an increased focus on measuring impact. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about, as you've done this work, how do you think about measuring overall the impact of the work that you're doing? And also, how do you ask your grantees to measure the impact of the work that they're doing? It's
interesting, especially being at the Gates Foundation, that would be used, and you frame it very concisely. Not for quoting purposes, not for the record, I will tell you that I think for most donors, the impact is not particularly important. My background, besides what Michael told you, was many years in government and social services, where, government, no one thinks government has metrics, but we did. We had to measure how many kids were in foster care and how many kids we got adopted and how many people were on welfare and how long they had to wait for their checks. But among the donors that we've worked with, and we have 2 people on our board who are experts in communication, they're both television reporters, and they're wonderful writers and they conceptualize really quickly. They both said to me, no, you have to make it simple, not too many statistics, and if you have statistics, don't put them in unless you're telling me a story about the person you're helping. It's all about the story about the person you're helping. Now, of course, in our instance, it's helping poor people. We do support some cultural programs, but it's a smaller part of our image and what people know us for. So metrics don't count much for us. What we have learned, and let me go back to how you motivate donors. So we had no name recognition. We were a brand new organization. We had to try to not only get people to care about being Asian, but also want to give, and we had to do it within a multi-ethnic environment. We decided to try to, every activity should make people care about being Asian and tell them something they didn't know. And that now has come back to us as, it's like a self-fulfilling loop. That's our branding. If we have been successful, people will say to us, that's why I value the fund, because I learned something about the Asian community that I didn't know. So Asian American elderly women have the highest suicide rate of any group in the country. Or 1 in 10 people who have hepatitis B are Asian, but 1 in 2 are waiting for a liver transplant, the end stage of hepatitis. There are 29% of the kids who are high school dropouts in San Francisco are Asian. It's things. These are all facts. We put it out there, and it helps people understand why it's important to give. So we try to not spend any time on any activity unless it is a fundraising activity, unless we're motivating someone to give. And I guess I should go back and, in contrast to the other people who spoke today, make sure you know that we started with virtually no money. I mean, we had a grant from the United Way for $110,000, which was about enough to open an office. And I know of some groups that have started all volunteer, and I think that is possible. But there's just like a core operating cost to doing what we're doing, raising money, giving it away. We have only once in our history ever had staff who were just program related, which may be bad because you can be less expert at it, right? But everybody does fundraising. If we had a Xerox operator, that person would do fundraising.
So, well, that raises another key question that I think people involved in philanthropy are always thinking about, which is around sustainability. And you and I were talking earlier about the sustainability of your organization. And I think there's also the question is, as you give away money, to think about the sustainability of the programs you're supporting. How do you think about that?
We try to do both ends, to help agencies be more sustainable, but it's always to further our branding as well. And we've, of course, thought about our own sustained future. On the grant-making side, and I think this is something that resonates more with sophisticated donors and less so with new donors, we have devoted some organizational resources to helping the agencies that we've supported, there are 80 in the Bay Area, to help them with their own fundraising, help them with grant proposals, but especially, not grant proposals so much, but especially with working with individual donors, because that's what most community-based organizations don't understand. They kind of know how to make friends with their local city council member and try to get a small grant that way, but actually knowing how to recruit a board of directors, how to engage people as donors, it's something that they don't know much about, so we've tried to at least share what we think we've learned in that process. So we've worked on that. Of course, other part of sustainability is giving them grants. Grants that are for the things they need money for, not the things that are the concepts that foundations are testing, which is the most common thing. The other thing that's hard, very hard, and I'm sure the Iranian community would experience this, is for public grants, public officials really don't understand individual ethnic groups, hardly ever, unless you're really good pals with someone very powerful. Right? You have to have a big umbrella. So the Asian organizations get more money than the Filipino organizations or the Japanese organizations. It's just in the numbers. So helping the community agencies learn how to raise money and get that more stable base of funding from individuals, we think is important. And it also helps the donors understand what we're trying to accomplish. It's not just grants. It's also having a more healthy community agencies serving the poor. So we think it helps us with our branding. On our own sustainability, we all said we wanted an endowment, and I mentioned earlier that our target has been to have a $20 million endowment. And we just got lucky with one donor who was very high maintenance, but has been very generous to us. And so, and it's just one of these kind of odd situations. Met someone at a conference who is administering a very large foundation and is like a committee of one, and she happens to be Chinese, and she's looking for an Asian project. It took me 3 years to get the first small grant, and 5 years for a first offer of a serious gift, and we're now talking about a second serious gift. But it's been a lot of work, and we go through this because we know that it could have a big impact on our future. But it's very much listening very carefully to one person and responding as fully as I can, and knowing that it is a long-term relationship.
Well, and it's happened because of what you've built over a long time that you're ready for that.
And some, yes, and some of it's luck. One thing that you didn't ask me about that I should also mention is that the community foundation model, and offline, if the folks at PARSA want more information, we, like Talat, are very happy to share what our experiences have been. Half of the community foundation resources all over the country are spent building relationships with financial and legal advisors, trust and estate lawyers, and folks who are in financial services. And the reason is that there are tax benefits, and you're looking for, if you really want to build a stable organization, you have to work with major donors. It's very nice to start with $100 donors, but it's really slow. Right? And the trade-off is that when you're working with major donors, everybody has, people at that level really want to have more control over their gift. They have particular ideas they want to pursue. Those are your entrepreneurs, right? And so you have to create a balance. It's very hard to find new major donors who love your mission and want to invest just in your general support. Very hard to do.
I think we have time for one or maybe two questions. I'll let you give you the privilege.
Thank you. I think sometimes when there's a perception that the Asian community is rich, and everyone is, everyone's graduating with top degrees and everything else, and you just said some percentage of high school students that drop out in San Francisco are Asian, for example. And so sometimes people that perceive a community to be rich don't want to give that community money because they feel that they don't need it. Or they don't acknowledge there's poverty in the community because they think, well, if I'm doing okay, it looks like everybody around me is doing okay too. And I know one of the Asian Federation in New York did a survey in Chinatown, for example, to try to prove that there was this sort of two poles to the Asian community. They were rich, but they also had very poor. What was your experience in trying to turn that perception that there was no need for help? Did the survey help, or